Welcome back to my channel. This is gonna be a tournament report for the Age of Sigmar Team Championships that we took part in with not one but two teams of our team that is located mostly here in the Netherlands with the Battle Barbies. So it's not the national team of the Netherlands, but it is. It's just a group of people that are very competitive and very enthusiastic about the hobby at the same time. And so we sent two teams. Let's see if I can find the rosters. So we had Battle Barbies Tyrants and the Battle Barbies Butchers. So our Tyrants team is basically the top team with the most competitive people, the most serious people, and then I filled the role as the captain of the other team. I played my Stormcast Eternals list, so this is this list. It's quite a concise list. I can manage to fit it on the screen here. So I have 4 drops. I have Eridan, because right now Eridan in Stormcast is just really good. Reclusions with the Lord Terminals, Quicksilver Draft, Legendary Tenacity. Vanguard Raptors with Long Strikes because they change matchups more than any other reason. Reinforced Concussors, Stormstrike Paladors, not reinforced, and then I still have a Night Relictor for some priesty business, and a Night Arcanum with the Stormstrike Manifestations of the Storm. I play Restless Energy, Interceptor, Recover, and that is basically it. So what is the lay of the land? So in team structure you have some considerations to make. So one of the considerations is how aggressive you want your team to be. We went for quite a balanced team with one very clear defensive list in OBR, so Shark Bone Reapers with Catacross, the reinforced units of Argai, the black, and some support. We also went for, let's see, Bowdoin with Soulblight Gravelords, so also a bit of a more passive army maybe, but still with Prince Vordrai and a reinforced unit of Blood Knights as the main feature pieces. And then we went for Yona as our scorer. Try to get as many points as you can and be paired into hopefully favorable matchups with the Grunta Stampede with just core Gruntas and more Gruntas with hacking crews. So with 4 people only, it's quite a challenge to make a team that is just fully up for any challenge. But this, with the less serious team, I would say, this was quite a decent lineup, and we were quite enthusiastic about getting into this. So what are we playing into first? I must say that there was a total of about 20 teams. There was 20 teams, yeah. So it's a bit of a challenge to find back which teams we actually played, because I have to either remember the names or I have to just find out what armies they played. Anyways, the first team that we played into was a bit of a more mellow team with some more laid-back lists, I found at least, and then I got the Cruel Boys as my first matchup. So here we see some lovely Cruel Boys. The resolution is not too good on this picture particularly, but maybe we'll get some better pictures later. So we are playing Roiling Roots, could that be it? Or Cyclic Shifts. Then we have the Scourge of Gairan teleporting character on creature. We have some monster killers. We have a monster killbow, big killbow thing. We have a wizard on a tower. We have reinforced hobgrots, or the equivalent of the Cruel Boys. We have not the Sludge Raker beast, but the hero on the beast. So that is basically just a killy combat piece. We have a wizard, and then we have reinforced gut rippers. We have the flying combat dude. I'm very bad with the Cruel Boys names. Then we have another unit of monster killers, I believe, and then we have Bolt Boys, 6 of them. So out of our lists, I think I am the one to play best into this. Because of the Ruination Chamber, basically, me being able to ignore the abilities of my opponents once they target me. So if my opponent wants to give me strike last, then basically be my guest on a 3-up with a reroll. I ignore that with Eridan, and for the Reclusions it's also a 3-up with a reroll if Eridan is nearby, or without a reroll if she's not close. So this does not look like a bad matchup to me. Obviously the Killbow is quite able to remove Eridan from the field in not that many shots. Otherwise I think I have the mobility, I have even the combat power to go through this piece by piece if I manage to make it a piece by piece fight and basically outmaneuver my opponent. So what is happening on the board? My opponent and I think we both had 4 drops. And I would have to do a little sneak peek. Yes, I believe my opponent did take the first turn and then I moved after. So I believe I had the opportunity to give my opponent first turn, which I think is quite a boon for me because he has some shooting. Obviously he can teleport with the shooting, but if he does so first turn, then he will put him out in the open somewhere, ready for me to hunt them. So I did deploy a little bit defensively, I would say. So with this map in particular, one of these maps, you can deploy in such a way that you could possibly redeploy onto the objectives. These pieces on the corners, they are places of power, so my cavalry is currently obscured. My priest is on the objective behind some obscuring terrain, so he's also not really in danger. My wizard is obscured. The only thing that's not obscured is Erdan, and the rest of my list is safe in disguise. So my opponent, first thing that he did basically was to cast the Marsh, which I did not fully understand because this basically just gives me a charge factor, like a target that I can charge after moving. Even just I could deploy the concussors, charge the terrain, and then pile in some funky ways to any other unit. But yeah, my opponent did cast it, and I was quite happy about that because it also means that later in the game he will not be able to just cast it without having first to banish it unless I kill it. So my opponent did walk up more or less everywhere, a little bit quite defensively, took some objectives, did not go full, and then in my turn I brought down some stuff, so I do score the 3 objectives here for the 1-2 more. I think the pairs are also a scoring aspect here. But I do not control any pairs. I think it's way too aggressive to go for one of the pairs in the first battle round, especially with the setup as my opponent has done. So we just keep it at this, and then these reclusions are in obscuring. So what you can do is have terminals within 1 inch of the terrain and have half an inch between these 2 reclusions, such that you can spread out the reclusions, still have a counter charge available for your terminals, and have everything in obscuring. So I think I'm in quite a good position. I wouldn't even want to double at this point, probably. Then again, my opponent could give it to me if he wants to. If I take the double, then there's not really a target for the concussors. I still have the long strike in the sky. It's not really a reason for me to go for that. So my opponent actually gets the turn. I don't know if I gave it to him or if he actually took it, but I'm perfectly fine with that. So here on the left side, the cavalry model, I think he teleported to the right side of Eridan somewhere, and then otherwise he put his bird out to try to kill my Knight Arcanum. He put out also the shooting units to shoot at Eridan, which is fine by me. Like, they do some damage, but they don't deal so much damage that Eridan really is bothered by it. And the bird, so my opponent could go onto the wizard. If he does so, he will very much likely kill the wizard. I have my concussors ready for a counter strike in my turn. So I actually don't really mind the bird being there. And then, well, this also still means that my opponent has to make the charge, which unfortunately he failed in this scenario. I do have here a unit of reclusions that is no longer obscured. This is because my opponent had some monster killers here. He went forward with the monster killers, went into the reclusions. I was looking at the situation. Normally, I think I would not use the Quicksilver draft on monster killers because they are not too much of a threat, possibly. This time I just used it to get next to no damage from the monster killers. My opponent still did manage to kill some reclusions. I don't remember if this was also maybe in the covering fire in the subsequent turn. I don't think so. Don't know how he killed those. So I have 6 here. I have only 4 of them here. I have no idea how he killed the 2. Because basically in combat I strike first. And then I killed a lot of I killed all the monster killers. So this will be my turn to start, turn 2, which is not a bad scenario at all. So the reclusions and terminals can go into these hopcrot Slita boys. The concussors can go for a juicy charge onto this the flying model. So one scenario here is that I move 10 inches up and I charge actually the terrain piece, but I move one of the guys or 2 of the guys, maybe even 3, fully to the bird, and then with the pylon I can get there to strike. And then otherwise I have Iridan that can try to clean up the bolt boys, because covering fire would target her. I can ignore that with a ruination roll. So I still have my unit of cavalry free to just basically go in. And then I still have some characters to try to zone out the objectives for possible teleports from my opponent's side. So that is basically what happens. Yeah, everything as described. So I do rally back a reclusion actually. I go in with terminals and reclusions. I go in with the concussors. Iridan goes for it, and I also deploy my long strikes to shoot at the bird to weaken it up a bit before the concussors go in. And that is this one. And then after we basically have this. So this is after the hero phase of my opponent, I believe. So yeah, the concussors together with the long strikes, they clean up the big bird. Iridan cleans up the bolt boys, and in the hero phase of my opponent manages to teleport to the other side of the board. I think I deployed her here to zone out my opponent's teleport for the pairs, because he could teleport something in his turn to get onto this objective, and then score the pairs for the battle tactic, or for the objective. It was Roiling Roots, yeah, I was right. And then here in the middle, the reclusions, they completely mop up the Slitas, and otherwise everything goes into this beast, which actually does quite a lot of damage, I found out. Mostly during the later turns, where basically 3 of the reclusions are dead, 2 of the cavalry are dead. The beast itself is dead as well. As you can see, Iridan is also missing from this picture. That's due to some shooting from the big kill bow that just did like 12 wounds in one volley. 10 wounds, 12 wounds, something like that. So yeah, Iridan is gone at this point. But it's looking quite alright. So tactic-wise, I have these tokens that I distributed at the start of the game as treasures for intercept and recover. I have the gut rippers that went into the concussors later, and then got covering fired with the long strikes. And basically they're losing the grind there. Otherwise I have a treasure on the dude in the tower here, and I had a treasure somewhere else which I already collected. So treasure wise it's looking good. Restless energy wise, it's also looking good because I could teleport my Knight Relictor onto his home objective, and in the end I would be able to score the first 3, all the tactics of the intercept and recover, and also the first 2 of Restless Energy, and I will just leave this unit on the table. So basically I control the field, my opponent does not control the field, I score more during the game than my opponent, and the tactics of my opponent, I think he's at Kill a Hero, so Master the Paths, and another one, and I don't remember the other one, maybe it was Scouting Force, but he was less successful at the tactics than I was, so that made it a win for me, which was nice to start the tournament off with a win for the team. The rest of the team this round unfortunately did not perform as expected. I could have a look if I can see the matchups back. So I saw that they don't really use BCP that much for this event. Maybe it was Appetite for Destruction. No, it wasn't. So there wasn't that many Cruel Boys, to be honest. If it's the only Cruel Boys, then maybe it was. So yeah, for the event they didn't really use BCP that much, which also means that you can't really look back into a lot of the data. It wasn't the mighty redeploys. Maybe it was this one then. So matchup wise, where did it go? Some killer stuff. Yeah, I think it was this one. This is at least the correct list. So we had MRN. Then we had some Gloomspite. Oh yeah, that was a troll list. So with some Rocket Trockots and Truck the Troll King. I think we had that one against our Soulblight maybe. Then we had the Gluttons. A lot of Gluttons against, not against our OBR. I think against the Iron Jaws, and then Slanesh against the OBR. Could that be it? No, I don't think we played against its team, but anyway, the rest of the team unfortunately lost, so we had one loss to start off the tournament. But then again, we got paired into an easier team the next round. I think we could have won the first round, but it was a bit of a toss-up. So here's some of the pictures of the event hall. So we have actually plenty of players already in this room alone. So there was a tournament going on, and otherwise there was also just casual players, I think, in the back, mostly 40k. But the venue itself, it's quite nice with the decorations on the side. It's and they have standing tables. As you can see, this is how you stand, with space for terrain underneath, and then space for your convenience above that, which is fantastic because you can just toss in anything you want during your games. So you have plenty of space to just tuck away something. Then comfortable stools, and well, you're just good to go. Plenty of space as well on the side to just put your junk. So yeah, it was a great venue for having a tournament. So this is one of the crazier tables that I saw that day. I'm trying to just skip the persons involved. For me, 40k is just like, okay, this is what 40k looks like. Like you have like everyone very close to each other and just shooting and blasting each other off. I bet it's tons of fun if you're involved in it, but it's not my kind of thing. It was also fun to see at the venue the actual models that they used for just for taking the pictures of the Hellsmith of Hashut release. And I must say that the heavy metal paint jobs, they have become really stellar over time. Like this bull especially. Model wise, the bull itself, I'm not the biggest fan. I think it's too artificial maybe, but I guess that's also the point. But just the paint jobs on these is also immaculate. It's really well done. And the venue also, to my surprise, has quite a lively bar. Like normally, like these places where you go to, like I don't know, some kind of event hall or something, or some kind of art gallery or something. You have just a restaurant that's there just to be a restaurant. This place is actually lively, and it seems like one of the go-to places for Nottingham. So that is quite cool to see. It's they also have quite some stuff on display at the shop that they have. So in the shop, I think the shop at Warhammer World is the shop with the most extensive collection of merch that you can buy throughout the year. But then, yeah, we had a short break, and then it was time to get into the next round. So this time I did take a picture of what we played into. So here we have our lovely pairing cards with some very nice artworks on them, and we have our opponents. So these are the pairings. We have Gloomspite Gits against the OBR. We have the Iron Jaws versus Stormcast, Iron Jaws versus Blades of Scorn, and Soulblight versus OBR. Maybe in this case I can find the team back, because then I can pull up the list of our opponent. Hellsmiths, KO, Magotkin, Soulblight. No. I think it was Team Andy Joyce. So I was playing against Iron Jaws, which is going to be this list. So for all your Iron Jaws fans, basically it's Kragnos. Kragnos is quite defining for Iron Jaws. So otherwise Iron Jaws it had Brutes reinforced, Art Boys reinforced, and Kragnos, and it's just, you can't make it that much more simple. It just works into some matchups at least. So yeah, we go for the same technique, same plan. My opponent is deploying at this point as well. So a little bit of explanation about my list as well. So I play Stormcast. I put half of my units in the sky. Ideally I don't really give away what I'm gonna do before we start the game, which also makes deployment a bit of a part in that. So I play 4 drops. 4 drops means that I have 2 drops with single characters. One of them goes in the sky. So my opponent either has the first drop or not. Then I drop a wizard. Then my opponent drops something else. Then I deploy terminals in the sky. My opponent drops something else. And then I deploy a priest. And then my opponent drops something else. Most people have deployed their entire army at this point. And then I have 1 single drop. That basically means that I drop the rest on the table. So what do we have in this scenario? So I put the concussors on the table because I had to dish out some treasures. So Iridan got a treasure because my opponent has intercept and recover. The Knight Arcanum got a treasure, and the concussors got a treasure. And then I have the Stormstrike Paladors available to be sacrificed for the greater good. So yeah, thinking what is going on going in this matchup. My opponent's playing Kragnos. Kragnos is a big beast, is a big monster, is a hero, is a very good target for long strikes as well. So obviously I have long strikes with 18 inches range, which is a long range, which you cannot really deploy away from unless you deploy a screen and then you play Kragnos all the way in the back. Then you have some leeway to it. But my opponent did not do this, so this is actually quite a juicy target for my long strikes. I remember that I was the one actually deciding who was going to go first in this game, and I decided to go first to just take the turn. Try to whittle down Kragnos as much as I could on the first turn, and then see where we go from there. because my opponent also does not have any strike first, strike last tricks. So I can very safely deploy my reclusions and then see how my opponent reacts to it. So we are playing on life cycle, so it's the one where turn 2 the underdog selects one of the objectives on the sides to then go around with the primaries. So with that in mind, I get first turn and I deploy like this. So there's some considerations to unpack here. So my opponent's list is brutes, Kragnos, brutes, Ardboys. If my opponent wants to deal with both sides at the same time, he has to divide up his list, which is perfect for me. He does not have a satellite unit that can deal with Stormstrike Paladors. So the Stormstrike Paladors, they tippy-toe on this objective and basically just try to draw out some of the resources of my opponent to go on this objective as well. And if they're successful at that, I think it's a win. Because that means that my opponent divides his forces and I can basically take down his forces one by one. Then we have the long strikes. Long strikes are deployed such that 18 inches is the backside, more or less, of Kragnos' base. So even if he redeploys, I will always be in range, and he has no escaping. This means that they have to be a little bit closer. Doesn't really make a big difference against Kragnos, because anyways I want to be in a situation where I'm fully safe with the long strikes, which means that I have to put something in between. So I put the reclusions in between, because my opponent also does not have any fixing for strike first, strike last, other than Kragnos' ability. So if he wants to come into the reclusions, I will activate quite likely my strike first and just try to whittle anything down after I've already been able to do a covering fire with long strikes. So if he wants to send Kragnos this way together with the Ardboys, then he should make sure that the Ardboys are actually in front so that they take the covering fire, probably, but it's quite some decent counterplay to what he's doing, I think. Alternatively, my opponent could choose to send Kragnos to Erdan, or the concussors. So Erdan is here such that I can bank a little bit on the 3-up rerollable to ignore his damage with the rampage from Kragnos. And alternatively, also I still have the 3-up uppy downy with Erdan to give him -1 to hit. He's still destruction, so I do not know his exact to hit stat, but I would not be surprised if it's 4+. So -1 to hit is a substantial debuff to that. So basically I have Erdan as a little bit of a defensive piece here. Then again, if he is really going to go for this, then the long strikes still have quite a decent chance of having him in a shorter range than the brute. Also, I still have the concussors available for a counter charge through this lane if he wants to charge into Erdan. I do not, I really do not want to have just the concussors engaged against Kragnos and not Erdan, because I would much rather just ignore his rampage and give him the -1 to hit, possibly at least. So yeah, this is mostly what I'm thinking. I am expecting my opponent to just go full send at this point, because if he goes away with Kragnos, he's playing the long game, and I feel like my list is better in the long game, with the long strikes whittling down and with me being able to decide where we fight. My opponent walks away with Kragnos, so this was a surprise to me, which it's a surprise that I don't mind at all, because in this scenario we have 2 fights that are being created. So I was really confused by this move, to be honest. So we have 1 fight that is being created with the brutes against the reclusions, which I'm very happy to take. We have 1 fight with the other brutes against the Stormstrike Paladors, which I am happy with, because if they get to be there, then, well, the board is divided up really. So I have the mobility to put all my remaining forces into any part of the battlefield, or at least to just one of his units without any counterplay. And then the art boys, they went back, such that the brutes are also very isolated from these art boys even. So this was quite a surprise to me. I did a covering fire with the long strikes. I did a strike first with the Lord Terminals, and then we get to this. So the brutes have done their attacks at this point. There's only 3 brutes left. They don't kill any reclusions. This is gonna be solved quite quickly. Then here the brutes are just completely annihilating my cavalry, which is perfectly fine. I can bring back also 1 unit once per game for 1 CP. Cracknells is still here, the Iron Jaws are there. So yeah, my opponent doesn't score very big. This is his first turn, so he just scores this objective, 2 objectives. So I think it's like 6 points or so, compared to my 10 points. Then we go to turn 2. So I have the choice of giving him the double or taking the turn, and I believe I took the turn myself. I still don't know if that was actually the right call, because if I did give him the turn, I would have given him quite a bad double, I guess. But he still has the 3d6 charge for Cracknells. So the brutes can still come back into the game. The art boys can still come back. So he does still have mighty destroyers. He has 3-inch move. He has standard walk, and he has a 3d6 charge into the reclusions without any Quicksilver Draft shenanigans anymore. So that could get in. The art boys could get in. So I think I think it was still the right call to take the turn here. So I teleport the long strikes to the other side. My opponent has blocked his redeploy with Cracknells to the back with his art boys, so it's much easier to measure out where I have to be. And then afterwards we get to the movement phase. Eridan's going to fly over, the Concussor's going to go over. Everyone is going to try to go into these brutes over here. Unfortunately, only Eridan makes it, which is a bit of an issue. I do not have any other fights that I should activate first, so I think I activated here first. Where did I give Finest Hour? I gave Finest Hour to Eridan. Okay, that helps. So I gave Finest Hour to Eridan, but despite that and the 5 of ward, I kind of whiff on the attack, so I only kill 1 art boy. My opponent deals 6 damage back. So at this point, basically, I think like, okay, I have to sacrifice Eridan because, or I have to just power through and get away from it. But then I free up a unit of 9 art boy or 9 brutes. It's also not pretty, because then I will lose my long strikes as well. Whereas if I keep Eridan there, I will lose Eridan, sure. My opponent will get a treasure, sure. But there is still a chance that I roll my 3 up. He hits me on 5s then. She might be alright, maybe. Could have used the Blaze of Power if this was a Blaze of Power, I believe so. So I didn't use the Blaze of Power if this was a Blaze of Power. But I could have. And otherwise, yeah, Cracknells is gone. So the long strikes did their work. My opponent is right now starting his hero phase, I believe. He summoned Kronspine, and he goes into his turn. So the art boys to go into reclusions. I don't know why they went there and not for the long strikes, because I think the long strikes are a better target for him. So the reclusions, they can also ignore his shield bash. I think I didn't manage to ignore it. They do some damage. I do quite some damage back. I had a covering fire that I did as well. And then he cleans up Eridan. So that was a bit of a grindy turn. I'm still up, I believe, by basically a full unit of concussors. So we go to my turn afterwards. Yeah, this is my turn. No. My opponent doubled me. So my opponent doubled me, and then he went into the concussors. The concussors took a beating. Could redeploy or teleport the long strikes back to left side again. And in the grind, basically, I did grind out the remaining brutes. Had some help with some friends, so the Knight came in as well to beat some of the brutes. The reclusions and terminals actually whittled away all the iron jaws, iron art boys, and I brought back my unit of Stormstrike Palaros to charge the wizard. This is more or less the end of the game. Yeah, so it's basically the end. So overall, it was quite a decent game for me. So first turn, I think most of these games of AOS are mostly reliant on objective control, and then the tactics are really secondary because everyone will score about 3 to 4 tactics each game. If you can deny your opponent's tactics to limit it to 1 or 2, that is really good. If you can score 5 tactics yourself, that's also really good. But otherwise, it's really reliant on objective control. First turn, I score everything. My opponent does not. He has one turn where he only scores 1 objective. Then afterwards, I score at least a half of the objectives. My opponent, I think also we have one turn where we have equal score here. But afterwards, it's mostly me that is scoring the objectives. And also at the end of the turn, at the end of the game, I have 2 rounds where I score fully and my opponent does not. So this was a clear win for the Stormcast. I think mostly decided by the long strikes in this game. So I was playing alternative units before, but long strikes in some games it just dictates the game. You put Kragnos on table, if you have long strikes it's a totally different game than if you have any other piece. So it's a good reason to include them in a team tournament setup, at least. And then we go to the last game of the day. So we were there with 2 teams, and I can pull up the team that we played last. It was the... let me see where they are. Nearly there. Oh yes, here they are, the Battle Barbies Tyrants, our sister team. So we did some pairings, and I ended up against Andrea with Lumineth Realm Lords. So we have played this matchup before. And that's a decent list. I think he has better matchups than me. Like also within our team, I think there's alternative matchups that he could have preferred. We are playing cyclic shifts. It's the one with the 6 objectives. So 3 on my side, 3 on his side. You can see the card here a little bit. Pretty basic. I think it's some business with a line you can draw, and then you get some mortals or something for the underdog bonus. So my opponent has quite a nicely painted army. He also brings the part of the temple the place without it because it's more convenient. He has 2 units of Blade Lords. He has Altarion, the Light of Altarion, that is. He has the twins, whatever their name is. He has a cat collar or whatever. Cat collar is good. Another wizard and Severat, and then a unit of River Blades. And that is actually 2,000 points. Who would have guessed? For me on the table right now, I have Eridan, Concussors, Knight Relictor, and Knight Arcanum. So the Knight Arcanum has a treasure, the Concussors have a treasure, and Eridan has a treasure. And then we start the game. I don't start, my opponent starts. So my opponent, so I believe I deployed the Knight Arcanum such that I had a 9-inch objective control zone out there for the River Blades. And then my opponent starts the game. He has 2 objectives. He could teleport to this one with the River Blades. Maybe he should have actually. Then again, I could also... How did I get there? I think I just teleported him, maybe. Alright, I think I might just have random actually. Anyway, so my opponent starts with 2 objectives, just scores the 2 objectives. I have 2 and I could redeploy for a 3rd one, so I think he just considered, okay, it's 1-2 more. I'm just not gonna bother because my opponent can just redeploy quite easily onto the objective. So he plays very much into a castle, which is totally fine by me because I like a division of 4 objectives for me, 2 objectives for my opponent. I don't need any tactics basically in order to win this game, because my opponent played Master the Paths and Intercept and Recover. He needs to kill a hero. That's the first thing to do, and I can deny that as well. So either we go for it, which I think is quite a decent chance for me, or we don't go for it, and that's even better because then I just stand on 4 circles. My opponent stands on 2 circles, and that's game. So he moves up into the forest. We go. He puts up his ethereal spells on the Blade Lords. He tells me I cannot really go in. And he wants to keep his characters alive, and I'm like, okay, sure, whatever, don't really care too much. So I just keep Iridan here on off the picture on the objective. I have the Stormstrike Paladors here to zone out the teleport of the River Blades and have some mobility myself. I zone out the teleport over here. I redeployed the Concussors in his turn, and then in my turn I could run to the objective over here. And I put the Reclusion smack in the middle of the table, like you do. So yeah, 4 against 2, perfectly fine. My opponent is the underdog, and yeah, this is another nice shot of his army. Then we go to turn 2, so my opponent gets a turn. I walk away with Iridan a bit after his move to make him out of range. So he doesn't run because then he can't charge, and then he walks but he doesn't get to the objective. So that's a good scenario for me, I think. This should be at the end of his move. So he does vacate actually this objective, and to me it's still unclear kinda why, because he could, don't know if he could stay on it. He still has the ethereal up, I believe. So I guess he's not in a bad spot, but on the other hand, if I go in with the Concussors, this objective was obscured, I believe. So I don't have my shooting, but I do have my combat power. So I could just go full all-out attack actually. And with all-out attack, it's gonna hurt quite a bit possibly, because with ethereal save I think they have a 4-up save and a 5-up ward, but these Concussors, if they hit on 2s, wound on 2s, and the mount hits on 3s and wounds on 2s, that's still quite some damage coming out. I could teleport the Knight Relictor then as well for the -1 ward save and just nearly mop up the unit, I guess. If he hadn't moved away, I think I would have gone in with the Concussors, have the Wizard for objective control, and just see what happens basically. Because otherwise he would have been too spread out to counter that. So he did move up his castle, so maybe not a bad thing to do. Eridan in my turn goes a bit more center, trying to just get away from this mean business, and I try to divide the board like this, with 2/3 for me and 1/3 for my opponent. So Severed has a 12-inch shooting attack, has not been that influential yet. So he can always shoot Eridan, but he doesn't really have that much access to my backline characters. But he can run 24 inches, then shoot 12, and then do some crazy business. But the units that I'm offering him are not very enticing to end up in with him, because he can actually die. So I move up a bit. I think the Reclusions could have just stayed in the forest for the -1 to hit, but it doesn't really matter too much against my opponent. Yeah, and as I said, we just divided the board. Then my opponent decides it's go turn. So he does manage to get Altarion in, which is it's a decent distance. It's not too much, but it's a decent distance. So he shuffles up some stuff. He shuffles around his buffs, and then I think the crucial thing here was the Rune of Petrification to make me strike last. So on a 3-up I ignore it. I had the choice of either ignoring it or not. I was at this point a bit confused with all the spells that were going on, so I was like, oh no, I won't ignore it. It's no biggie. Should have definitely tried to ignore it, because this is the most crucial one out of all. Thing is that it targets both the Reclusions and Terminals, so I can ignore one of them, and for the other he makes a roll to see if they have strike last, and if he makes Terminal strike last, I'm in trouble. If he makes the Reclusion strike last, I'm also in trouble. So it's a good shutdown method, yeah, definitely. So either I could respect a little bit more the range, or, well, if I were just in the forest here, then, well, charges would have been a bit more far, and -1 to hit for my opponent. So I think it would have been better to have the Reclusions in the forest. Mostly also because if my opponent goes for any of these objectives, then my Reclusions will be close enough anyway to counteract. So that was a misplay on my part, I think. My opponent goes in, my opponent does some damage, and I do not have any other picture, so I'll just have to walk you through this. So what happens here, he puts a lot of attention on the Terminals, and the Reclusions remain rather untouched, I think. So mostly also because he played Wrathful Cycles and needs to kill a hero. So Terminals, I believe, dies. So he gets some damage from the rune, then one of the units strikes him down, he gets up again, then the other unit strikes him down, and I lose also 1 or 2 Reclusions. Strike back, kill some Blade Lords. In my turn afterwards, I just go full send with everything, including Eridan, and I just mop up this batch. There's 1 Blade Lord left, I believe. I also bring in the long strikes, either on this side or on this side. This is killed. This is all gone. And I still have my Stormstrike Palaros, Eridan. I think the Concussors, they actually went towards the River Blades. I think I doubled. So I went in with the Concussors then. Killed off some stuff. Believe I doubled. Allowed my opponent to remove a treasure, but I got some treasures anyway. Then I went back to the River Blades. Managed to get the charge in one go. So that was quite nice, because then I could just remove him from the game. And basically, it just kept the 4 objectives for me. We traded this one for this one through a teleport with my priest. So I took his 3 back objectives, ideal for Restless, and my home objective here. My opponent had these objectives mostly at this point. And in the last turn he still managed to fly out and kill my Knight Arcanum because I could not unbind my own disc. Because I needed a 5 and I rolled a 4. So he shot at him and eventually the guy died. Yeah. So that was the toughest game of the day. Even though I think it was definitely a favorable matchup for me. So I made a small mistake with the reclusions, pushing them up too far, and otherwise I didn't really need long strikes at this. I could have put the long strikes here, but then again my opponent can redeploy, can walk in his turn, can charge in. It's better to not risk it probably. Yeah. So I could also have put could have used the long strikes to shoot down this unit because it's only 10 hit points. It's incredibly sensitive. Yeah, that could have been a play as well. Just focus on this with combat staff. Have the long strikes cover this. Could even have done that earlier. Just deploy the long strikes. I don't know, this turn already. Just put them in the backfield, not obscured. So that with covering fire I can just cover the objectives and then deny my opponent some objective play with the river blades. Could have been an option, didn't do that. Putting long strikes on the table makes them really vulnerable. Yeah. So what I did try this game in particular as well is to go in and just try to kill all the wizards because they're just like 3 wizards here. One is on the terrain piece, however, which is very difficult to kill in one turn, in combination with the 2 other wizards as well. Just to shut down the Return Altarion spell. So that is that's a difficult one to deny, because Sylvaneth players get quite some value out of Altarion. He's the last thing you should kill, basically. Unless you kill the wizards first, then you can kill him without any recursion. Or unless he has no ethereal, that also helps. Yeah, so first day 3-0, that's a good result. Was very happy. I didn't mention the second round, we also won as a team, so that was good. This one we drew, basically, like I won a game and someone else won a game. I really have to think now who won the game. So I think Boudewijn did not win the game, and our OBR did not win the game. Was it? I think the OBR won the game, but I'm not 100% sure. So our OBR, I think so. So we won 2, we lost 2, but then in terms of victory points, they won more. They got more points, so then they won the round, unfortunately. Or at least, unfortunately, for us. So, next game, we would be playing The Bear Should Be on Fire, which is an amazing team name. So, yeah, let's see that in my next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you the next time.